Welcome back, GRD 121 to PS5, White Farm, and this is our last Photopea exercise of the semester for fall 2020, and we're doing a holiday-themed kind of a card here with some kids in it, and we put a girl in a wagon in front of this White Farm scene and a picture of kids here, and actually, as I look at the kids, I think they should probably be desaturated slightly. Let me just go to the kids here, and I'll do the same thing. I'll desaturate them. You remember how to do that? Image, adjustments, hue saturation, and just turn down the saturation a little bit. And it should be on that. If I'm on the right layer, let me see if I'm on the right layer. I am. I'm on the kids layer, and I'll turn saturation down a little bit, and I'll kind of do before and after. And it just takes away a little of the harshness is all I want to do is take away on there of particularly her jacket and some of the other colors. And that's all I'll do there. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do the text because I'm going to save cloning for last because cloning is a lot of work and painting and stuff, and it's not even fun to watch. So I'll get right to the good stuff. I don't know if it's the good stuff, but I'm going to do some text here. And we used text before on the turkey thing, so this won't be that hard to do. So I'm just going to take my text layer and just click, and it always says Deja Vu font or whatever. And there's my text here. Oh, and there's a little text tool here. It's really hard to see. It's there. Before I do anything, I'm going to make it a lot bigger. And then I'm just going to type happy. I guess I have to click off there. Then I'll type happy. Let's see, happy. There we go. Happy. We'll do a happy. And I'll hit return and just do holidays. And I'm not sure how this is going to line up. I'm not sure what kind of settings we have with paragraph and stuff. But before I do that, I guess I'll open up my paragraph thing here, and I'll see if I can center it. And I guess I have to highlight and center both lines like that. So drag through it and center it. Now they're both centered. And I don't know if they have any kind of line spacing here that I see. Maybe they have it under character. They have leading, and actually, oh yeah, they do. Let me put it on auto. I'm not sure how much it is here. Let's just try, we have 143. Let's try 143 and see what that does. Oh, that looks a little better. You have to almost do the same leading as the pixels up here. So if you want it tighter, and if that's too much, then go 150. So it's kind of hard to see. The slider doesn't really help you, but we just want to get that tighter. That's all we're doing there. So I'm going to take my move tool, now move this. Now I'll change the font. Now that I have it on two lines like that. Now I didn't put an exclamation mark, but I could have. And let's see if we could see fonts here. And I don't, so let me double click on that again. Does this show me fonts? There we go. A little slow, but I'll look for something holiday-ish. Oh, there's something. Engagement, try that. That can probably work on one line, actually. But that looks a little small. But what I could do is take my move tool and make it bigger. If you don't see transform handles, put transform handles, and maybe I'll just make it a little bigger that way. And if you want to make it red, you could just double click on this again, which highlights the text. Go up here, and you can sample from the red in here. Let's say you wanted to sample from her jacket. You could sample in there, and it gets that kind of color. Maybe make it a little more red. And I'll hit OK, and I'll click off of it. And that looks all right, I guess. And I could put a little white border on it, just like we did with the picture. And I'm going to close this up over here so it goes back. And I'll put a little white border on. And I'll do that through layer styles. Layer style, stroke. And it is doing white. Now this time I'm going to do it on the outside. And that actually looks pretty good. And then I'll do a drop shadow just so it kind of pops from the background. And actually that looks pretty good, whatever that is. 120 going that way, and I have 24 pixels now. You don't want a real far away drop shadow. With text, you want to keep it nice and tight to it. And you can even increase the spread a little. You can even darken it a little bit. You don't want a real big blur on that. You want a little bit of blur there. And that looks pretty good, I think. You could adjust the color if you don't like the color. And I'll click off of it. It's working a little slow right now. I just want to rotate a little bit. And I'll hit enter. And I'll turn off my transform handles. That looks pretty good. So that's my text. Whatever you want to put there, whatever color you want to use. But I just used an outside stroke of white and a drop shadow, which makes it pop from that background. Then you could do something up here, whatever. Now the last part of this that we're going to do is we're going to do some cloning. Now let me just check out my layers here. I'm going to put Happy Holidays up top. And then I have an extra layer here when I was messing around with the tea stuff. So if you got a layer here that you didn't want, just hit the trash can. And I'm going to save what I have because I did a lot of work here. And we are going to throw some snow at the end. But what I'll do now is I'll turn off all these layers. And I only want to work on the white farm layer, except, you remember cloning from the previous exercise? What should we do? I'm waiting to hear you yell out something. Yes, we should make a new layer, and we should call it cloning. We should clone on that layer so we don't mess with the original. And I'm just going to do a couple things here. There's not a ton of cloning to do. It's not as much as on the bridge, but you'd want to get some wires here in this pole. It doesn't look really good. It's a little challenging because it goes right through this thing here. So I'm going to zoom in and work on it a little bit. And I may not record everything, but I'll try to get the wires first. So remember how cloning works. Cloning tool. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, maybe double whatever the pole is, something like that. And again, this sky should work okay. So cloning, and then also what you want to do, we'll start with aligned. And the source is going to be all layers. So remember to do that. Aligned all layers. And we're working on the cloning layer. And we turned off all the other layers. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to kind of work my way down. So I'm going to Alt. You could hit Alt there and then just click here. Or you can alt click there. And now I'm just going to start painting down. And I think I did a little high because I'm missing that area. I'm going to go over here and hit Alt again and just kind of click down lower. And it's going a little slow. That's, again, some of the drawback of working on the web. And I think I'm going to adjust my brush a little. It's too hard. I don't want to be working in the sky with it that hard, so I'll take it down to maybe 70 or something. Luckily, it didn't matter when I was doing that. And click off of this so that thing goes away. And I'll make my brush a little bigger. So now, again, you can just hold Alt over here and then just go back and start painting. And I'm just going to work my way down because it's just kind of vertically, it's copying the same tones as I go down, and that is working pretty well down to there. And then see, when it's on aligned, it's staying with me. Now let me alt click again, and I'm going to alt click here and start working my way down. And now in here, I'm going to alt click in the trees and just put some trees over the wires. They don't have to be perfect. Just try to connect limbs a little bit. And you could even alt click and then put a little bit of sky back in there. And now I'm going to go over here and kind of work my way down. And then I'm going to go over here, alt click over here, and then just kind of go over this way to get that wire going through there. And I'm not worried about it in the trees yet. Let me work on this wire here. Sooner or later it's going to go into the other wire, but I think I'm okay. And again, I'm going to alt click over here. Kind of go into that tree. And I got to zoom in quite a bit here to get some of this stuff. Now, if you miss some of this stuff, it's not going to be a big deal, but I'm going to have to make my brush smaller. So I'm going to alt click right here and just kind of go in there. I'm going to alt click on the tree and just kind of take away some. Let me go up here. Actually, that looks pretty good. And then I'll alt click over here. This is kind of like the thing on the covered bridge a little. I'll just kind of replace some stuff in here. Now you're not going to notice this as much. And here's some wire here, so I'm just going to alt click down here, get rid of that wire. Not that, wires are that big of a deal, but looks better without them. And I'm going to alt click down here, just go in here and get some of the wires out of there. And you could even alt click on the tree and just kind of put a limb over top of what you're doing, maybe some lighter limbs over there. And I think that looks okay. I don't know if I got all that. And it looks pretty good. Not a great job, but not bad. I still have to do this pole here. Now the hardest part in the pole is zooming in and getting the edge of the house. So make your brush a little bit bigger. Get this part, hold Alt, click here, and then just kind of lay this over top. But you don't want to lay it so that you mess with the skyline there. Just enough. And then you might have to make your brush a little bit smaller and add some more up there. And then you may have to just get a little skyline, replace it in there. And then we're going to kind of move sideways here. We'll just kind of click here. And this stuff you could just kind of click, just like the barn thing, and just kind of go from either side. I might go a little bit bigger with my brush. Option click here. And you just kind of paint like right over top of it. And I'll go from either side. Now you got to watch, there's some sun here. And you want to keep that angle of the sun. And I'll kind of sample some stuff from above the window as I do a side of the window. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just something in the background. It's going to be small, but we just don't want the pole there. And once we get the light stuff done, then we could borrow it all from here. I can make my brush a little bit bigger, and I can alt-click here, alt-click over here, and you got to watch not to get too close to it once you start painting, because it starts picking up previous stuff. And we're almost done here, actually. Take it from this side, I'll lay that right on top. Here I could kind of mimic that angle and get this from either side. And I'll alt-click on that angle and just put that right there. Might need to do a better job at that angle. Just cover that up a little. That looks okay. And that looks okay. I think that's what I had, so I took away all the wires in the pole. That's all you got to do if you want to do any more. If you want to take away the patio or the sign or anything else here, but that looks okay. So I just got rid of that stuff, and that's all I wanted to do. So the cloning's doing its job, and now I'm going to turn on my other layers. And the last thing I'll do is I'll just add a little snow here just for a little decoration. And if I go to my brush, now I want to make I don't want it over top of Happy Holidays. I want it over top, so I want it right here above the snowman. So I'm going to go here and make a new layer, and I'm just going to paint on here. Now, the idea of making new layers, because if you screw it up, just delete the layer or erase it, or delete the stuff on the layer. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to grab this little kind of sketching. This says details. I'm not sure what this looks like, this brush, but I'll make it bigger. Not sure what it's going to look like yet. I don't know if the other one would look better. Let me click on that one and make it bigger. Click up here to make that go away, and I'll see what this looks like. The opacity, I'll turn down the opacity just a little bit, maybe around 80. And again, I want to be on, the problem I'm running into, be careful, is I'm still on the clone stamp. So I don't want to be on the clone stamp. I just want to be on a paintbrush. So I bet when I go on a paintbrush, it's going to take away everything I just did. So now I'm on my paintbrush. I think I got the right one. Yeah, that looks a little big now. So I'm just going to, maybe somewhere around 500. I'm going to paint with that, and I'm going to paint with white. So make sure your foreground color is white. Opacity's down a little bit, and let's see what happens here. Just going to click. Now, if you just try it once and you think, that's too much, you could either make your brush smaller or turn your opacity down. So I'm going to undo, Command Z, and I'll turn this down a little bit. Maybe it'll take it down to like 70. And maybe I'll make my brush bigger and just kind of click, just to kind of make a little border. Just random kind of stuff down here. Just add a little decoration, especially over here where, I don't know if you want to put them over the people. You could erase them out of there. I'll show you what to do. But if you want to put some up here, make it look like it's snowing or something. And if you click more around the edges, you could almost do like a border, almost like a vignette kind of thing around the border. Don't get carried away, but that looks okay. Now, if I did some over the picture and I wanted to get rid of it, I could just take my eraser. There's my eraser. It doesn't look like an eraser. And I'll make it bigger. And I'm just erasing the snow from that guy, because I don't want snow on top of them. So I erase some of that. So that's kind of it. That's it for your ps5, white farm, whatever else you want to put in here. But we did a lot of stuff here. Put some text here. We even edited a little bit with the leading and stuff like that. We put a color, we put a stroke, we put a shadow. We used a layer mask and some different selection tools to silhouette her. We even just kind of painted a lot on the mask to get rid of it because it was easier than the quick selection tool. The only thing I've been disappointed with is the quick selection tool in Photopea. It just doesn't seem to be as easy to use as it is in Photoshop. And we used a layer mask on here, and then first of all made them separate so that you can scale the picture and move the picture inside the mask, almost like a little window. And then we made them together again so we can move them around and scale them. And we put a border, we put a drop shadow, we did cloning, we did some layer effects, we did some image adjustments, we did a little shadows, highlights here and there, we did some levels, different things, even some color balance and some hue saturation. So we did a lot of stuff here for our last assignment for the fall, and hopefully you'll keep working with this stuff. Everything we're doing just takes time to work with. You're not going to get this right away. You might not remember everything right away, but everything we've been doing in these last couple of exercises are a bulk of kind of stuff that you're going to do a lot in Photoshop or Photopea, and things that you're going to do, everyday kind of things, image editing, layer masks, cloning, all that kind of stuff. It's not everything. Obviously, Photoshop, Photopea, there's a lot of things you can do, but that's kind of an introduction to it for computer graphics. So when you're done with this, remember you can save it if you're in Google Drive, and we can do the same thing as we did with the previous with the JPEG. So that means you can do this. After you save it, you can go File, Export as JPEG, and you can download a 50% version. So go to percent, double click in here, make it 50, and hit save. And it should have made everything 50. I didn't click on the other window, but everything should be good. And there's your JPEG. And then when you want to share your other one, now I already saved this in Google Drive, but if you want to share it if you're not using Google Drive, just go to Publish Online and PSD, and it'll make a URL. I'm not going to do it right now, but it'll make a URL in another tab. You could copy that URL and share it in My Warren in the add comment as a link. So make sure you do that if you're not using Google Drive. I'll just cancel out of that right now. Now, if you are doing Google Drive, you can close this because I saved it. You could go here to your file in Google Drive and right-click on it and share. And again, when you share it, make sure you get rid of the restrictions and say change to anyone with the link, and then just copy the link. And again, if you're not using Google Drive, you could copy the link, the photopea.com link. Go back to My Warren, log in again, go to Coursework and White Farm, and two things you're going to do. You're going to add a comment, and the first thing you're going to do is insert image, and you're going to go find your image in downloads. It's going to be the JPEG one. So I'm going to make sure I go to downloads, and there's the JPEG one, and there's my finished version there that I just did. So I'm going to put that in there and hit insert, and it says 900. I can make this smaller. I'll do like 500 and hit OK, and there it is. And I'll hit save, and that looks nice. And then I'll add a comment again, and this is where you're going to insert your link, whether it's your photopea.com link or from your Google Drive. You're just going to paste it in here. Make sure you choose new window, hit OK, hit save, and then just like for the previous assignments, you have a JPEG, a finished version JPEG, and if you scroll in here, you also have a link either to your Google Drive PSD image or your photopea.com image, your PSD image from there. So that's it, and that should finish up your Photopea stuff for this semester, and that's the end of this assignment, part 3.